Hi everyone, welcome to ELVIS Presley Past, Present and Future, where we're with you for another week continuing on with our Elvis journey. I want to apologise up front if the lighting looks a little different. Had a few technical issues this week. My printer decided it wasn't going to work, so I'm actually reading from the screen today, so I'm trying to minimalise the glare as much as I can, but we should be back properly next week, but we do the best with what we have, right? Anyway, today we are resuming 1974. We have a really short tour. First of all, there were also renovations made to Graceland at this time while Elvis was on tour, so we'll have a look at that. And there was also a pretty famous rock group that Elvis met while on this short tour as well. So we will go into that. So let us start. Elvis resumes touring in May of 1974. After a 6-week rest, the short 4-day tour, Tour 10, would take Elvis to California. Even with so many concerts under his belt, Elvis still wanted to put on strong shows and flew to LA on May 6 to prepare for this new tour, presumably to also rehearse Big Boss Man, which would be added as a surprise final number to his new shows. In 1974, Elvis added new songs, Help Me, Let Me Be There, and Why Me Lord, to his regular set list, plus the old Sun classics Trying to Get to You and Poke Salad Annie. It was left off the last tour, but now is put back on. On this tour, Elvis added Big Boss Man, which he would then keep performing through to 1977. With Steamroller Blues, Suspicious Minds, I Can't Stop Loving You, and an American Trilogy also in the mix. The set list was a truly solid selection. Elvis kicked off opening night, May 10, at the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino for a crowd of 7,200. Wearing a new suit, the blue swirl suit. The other names for this suit was the rainbow suit. It was a white jumpsuit with a swirl pattern done in different shapes of blue. Elvis first wore this suit during his very short tour in May of 74. He didn't wear it with the original belt, but with the blue starburst belt instead. And that is the original belt. The original blue swirl belt has an RCA logo on the belt buckle. After 74, this suit wasn't worn again until the end of 1976, when Elvis started to wear some of his older suits again. On May 11, he did 2 shows at the Forum Los Angeles. The first show was at 2:30 p.m. and he performed for a crowd of 18,500. He wore another new suit, this time the peacock suit, which was a white jumpsuit with a peacock design done in embroidery, and the white Spanish flower belt. There was also an original peacock belt done with this. And when Elvis wore this suit, he didn't wear it with the original belt, but with that white Spanish flower belt as shown. According to the rumours, this was the most expensive jumpsuit Elvis ever got made, costing approximately $10,000. In early August 2008, this suit was sold at an auction for $300,000 US, which is the most anyone, a private collector, has ever paid for an original suit worn by Elvis. For the evening show of May 11, he performed for another audience of 18,500, and he wore the 1974 version of the American Eagle suit. It was a white jumpsuit with American Eagle design on the front and back done in embroidery. You can see it is different from the Aloha suit. The eagle on the chest is embroidered different. Basically, it is an upgrade of the 73 American Eagle suit. The suit could be considered as an upgraded version. The suit made its debut during the very short 1974 May tour, along with 3 other new jumpsuits for that year, which I've just mentioned, the Peacock, the Blue Swirl, and there was also a Turquoise Phoenix. Although original belts were made for all 3 suits, Elvis didn't wear any of the suits with them when he first wore them. This suit was first worn with the 3rd American Eagle belt, and the original belt was used during the 74 June-July tour. Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Bonham were in Los Angeles for the launch of their record label, Swan Song. The night after the launch party at the Bel Air Hotel, the band, minus bassist John Paul Jones, attended Elvis Presley's concert at the Forum. At some point, Elvis must have been alerted to the presence of the rock group in the audience, because during the show, which was taped and later released on record as Live in LA, he can be heard saying to his band, "Wait a minute, if we can start together, fellas, because we've got Led Zeppelin out there, let's try to look like we know what we're doing, whether we do or not." Led Zeppelin and Elvis shared the same promoter, Jerry Weintraub, who set up a meeting after the show between the 2 parties. Plant later wrote about his impressions of Elvis. "I sized him up," he said. "He wasn't quite as tall as me, but he had a singer's build. He had a good chest. He was driven." Plant also revealed a funny turn near the end of the evening. At that meeting, Jimmy Page joked with Elvis that we never sound checked. But if we did, all I wanted to do was sing Elvis songs. Plant said, "Elvis thought that was funny and asked me which songs did I sing. I told him I liked the ones with all the moods, like the great country song, Love Me, treat me like a fool, treat me mean and cruel, but love me." So, when we were leaving, after a most illuminating and funny 90 minutes with the guy, I was walking down the corridor, Plant said. He swung around the doorframe looking quite pleased with himself and started singing that song, Treat Me Like a Fool. I turned around and did Elvis right back at him. We stood there, singing to each other. Zeppelin and Elvis's paths would cross again 2 times in the 70s. The next meeting took place at Elvis's home in Memphis. After swapping jewelry, Elvis thought it would be funny to pull a prank. Now, as you can see, that photo there has been photoshopped. So that's not the actual picture. Before the evening was over, Elvis said he wanted to make another exchange. He was out of watches, but had another bit of fashion in mind. So he stood, Elvis eyed John Bonham and said, "Let's swap pants." While simultaneously, in expert Monty Python fashion, they both let their pajama bottoms drop beneath their robes. Zeppelin's tour manager, Richard Cole, was shocked into silence. Nobody accepted Elvis's offer, but it was a great note to end the night on. The final meeting between Zeppelin and Elvis took place on the Baltimore airport tarmac, while both were on tour in 1977. Elvis's stepbrother, David Stanley, later recalled the encounter. There was one other time the Presley tour ran across the band while out on the road. It was at the Washington-Baltimore airport. We were playing in Washington, and Led Zeppelin was playing at the Capitol Theatre. We arrived on the Lisa Marie, Elvis's private jet, and Led Zeppelin arrived on the Caesar's chariot. It was a hell of a sight to see these two private jets sitting side by side on the private tarmac. On May 12, 1974, Elvis is photographed arriving at the arena with Linda. The venue is a sellout. It is at Selland Arena. The showtime was 3 p.m. and the crowd was 7,500. For this show, he wore the blue swirl suit again. On May 12, 1974, I found him at the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino for an 8:30 p.m. show, performing for a crowd of 7,200. He introduced his third and final new suit for this tour, the Turquoise Phoenix. Other names of this were the Aqua Phoenix and the Pale Blue Bird. It was a white jumpsuit with a turquoise eagle facing left. The belt was the original belt, but he wore a light blue version of the Lucky Belt. Now, the bird on the Phoenix suit, I wonder how many of you know this bit of information. The bird on the Phoenix suit wasn't originally designed as a bird. The original design was supposed to be two zebra heads bowing to each other. But when Elvis saw the sketches, his comment was, "That bird has funny feet." As he was looking at the design upside down. So, a bird design it came. But if you look at the design upside down, you can see two zebras in there. Oh, wait. It's true. Yeah, I could never see the zebra myself. But I did look at it upside down, and you definitely can see a zebra. So, but to Elvis, it looked like a bird. So it became the bird suit. When Elvis first wore this suit, he didn't wear it with the original belt, but instead with the light blue version of the Lucky Belt. Nowadays, the suit is owned by EPE Graceland. They have it on display with an alternative belt designed for the suit. This is one of the 4 Phoenix suits. There was a black Phoenix, a silver Phoenix, and a red Phoenix, besides the turquoise. The same time Elvis was on tour, renovations were being done at Graceland under the direction of Linda Thompson. The Jungle Room, Elvis simply called the Den. For him, it was merely the Den, constructed in 1965 as an addition to Graceland. And there's the back of Graceland. That's what it looked like before Elvis renovated the Den and renovated Graceland. It was a substantial addition, 14 by 40 feet on the rear east facade of the house. Elvis Presley's already fabled Memphis headquarters, the room was the nerve center of his home life. It became known as the Jungle Room because of its furnishings, as well as the built-in waterfall of cut filed stone on its north wall. The one-story section at the house's north end was constructed as a 4-car garage. There's a plan of Graceland. It was remodeled as an apartment in the mid-1960s and was later used as offices, and currently provides additional exhibit space for the House Museum. The Den brings you closest to Elvis's personality, his eccentric style, playful humour, manic moods and sheer bravado ooze from every corner. The 14 by 40 foot arena that became the Jungle Room was originally an open patio at the rear of Graceland, just behind the kitchen. Its transformation began in the early 60s, following Elvis's return from military duty in West Germany. Thrilled to be home, the singer embarked on a series of improvement projects. After trying with the idea of building a 2-story octagonal building made entirely of aluminium to house offices and a home studio, he settled on a more modest task of converting the patio into a screened porch. By 1965, this had successfully been enclosed into what would today be called a man cave. Thick drapery permanently cast the room into darkness, making it the ideal spot for Elvis and his boys to put up their feet at all hours of the day and night. Still, it had yet to receive its distinct decor. None of the jungle stuff was there. Elvis's father decorated that room with furniture from Sears, with these big round tables like you'd see in a restaurant, with high chrome bottoms and big round black tops. According to Graceland's housekeeper at the time, the space also contained 2 sectional couches and a large high-back chair for Elvis, all upholstered in blonde leather. The den's focal point was a massive colour television, one of 14 in the home. He could also afford elaborate customizations to his den. The well-known flagstone waterfall was added a year after the room's construction. Builders curtained off the north wall until the finished product was presented to Elvis in a grand unveiling. Although he was initially delighted, problems soon became apparent. It was a great idea, except it flooded everything. It never worked. The whole room would get flooded, said Marty Lacker. He also remembers the accessory being more trouble than it was worth at times. Marty said Vernon got this cheap plumber, some $4 an hour guy, to do it originally, and the guy botched the job. He grumbled. The whole wall leaked and water would flood the backyard. The primitive plastic mechanism had to be overhauled by Marty's brother-in-law, Bernie Grenadier, who will later oversee the construction on Elvis's meditation garden. Even after the repairs, the feature was not flawless. In the middle of Graceland's 1971 Christmas party, far from festive due to the fact that Elvis and Priscilla were angrily bickering, the waterfall shorted out and started a small fire. A frantic Vernon attacked the wall with a sledgehammer in a desperate attempt to reach the wiring before the entire home was set ablaze. Elvis later claimed it was the highlight of the evening. When Elvis's girlfriend Linda Thompson moved into the mansion later that year, the couple marked this fresh start with a frenzy of redecorating. The changes were severe. It will later be christened mid-70s Graceland, the Taj Mahal of aesthetic misjudgment. Nobody could ever make Elvis's taste anything other than what it was. Elvis's friend Alan Fortis described the appointments as all the furniture you wouldn't buy, not in a million years. Fellow friend Lamar Fike was even blunter. He said, let's face it, Elvis's taste sucked. If something wasn't overdone, it wasn't abnormal to Elvis. It was abnormal. If something wasn't overdone, it was abnormal to Elvis. It's known among Elvis fans as the Red Period, for the yards of bright scarlet carpet that flooded the hallways. Linda had made the selection at a local flooring store, and Graceland's colour scheme was soon altered to match. Antebellum pillars, balustrades and doorways were shrouded in heavy red velvet fabric, lassoed with gold tassels like a Las Vegas room. Enormous overstuffed Louis XV chairs were upholstered in candy apple satin, studded with rhinestones. Walls dripped with mirrors and black velvet paintings. Floors were cluttered with white fur rugs and gaudy lamps, bejeweled with fake rubies and sequins. Even Liberace would have blushed. The den would not be spared from this extreme home makeover, although the exact circumstances are contested. Elvis insiders insist he was fully aware that the mass-produced tiki furnishings were delightfully horrible, and he merely wanted to pull a prank on his father. In a story, though, supported by several of Elvis's friends, Vernon returned home one day in 1974 explaining that he just went by Donald's furniture store and they've got the ugliest furniture he'd ever seen in his life. After describing it to Elvis, Elvis replied, "Good, sounds like me." By the afternoon, Vernon found the same furniture sitting in the den, along with his laughing son. Here's the backstory. In the 1970s, this guy that's talking, his father owned the furniture store. My father worked as a furniture salesman at Donald's Furniture Company, located at 405 N in Mississippi. My father was away at lunch when Elvis Presley came into Donald's Furniture Company with his famous Memphis Mafia to buy some furniture for Graceland. As you can see on the receipt, which is right here, as you can see on the receipt, Elvis bought over $23,000 worth of furniture for his now famous home. Some of the items on the receipt are the very pieces of furniture found throughout Graceland. Some of the pieces went into Elvis's famous jungle room. Since Elvis bought furniture, that was my father's section of the store, he got to keep the carbon copy of the receipt, as Elvis took the original. Elvis grew to love the dark pine couches, stools, lamps, credenza, wet bar, and end tables, adorned with chainsaw-carved sea serpents and gargoyles. They reminded him of Hawaii, a frequent vacation destination and scene of some of his greatest triumphs. In his den, holding court from his ornate wooden throne, cooled by a trio of air conditioning units and surrounded by friends, family, and ceramic animal figurines, Elvis was still the king of his jungle. But outside the walls of Graceland, this was less often the case. As he approached the age of 40, it seemed that his career had plateaued. Though he continued to play sold-out shows across the country, the performances could be lackluster at times. His health also became an increasing concern. Perhaps even more troublesome to the executives at RCA, Elvis had grown disinterested in recording. In the year of 1974, he came and went without a single studio visit, forcing the label to make do, issuing live tracks, outtakes, and repackaged hits. The following March, he spent only 3 days in Hollywood's RCA Studio C, recording songs that would yield that Springs Today album. it would be his last time working in a professional studio setting. RCA did what it could to make the recording process more enticing. They offered to hold music sessions in Memphis, but top-of-the-line local facilities like the American Sound Studio and Stax had recently been shut down. Facing limited options, producer Felton Jarvis had a novel idea. Why not bring the studio to Elvis? The concept was not entirely without precedent. 2 tracks from 1973's Raised on Rock had been taped in Elvis's Palm Springs home with great success. Elvis liked the idea, and it was agreed that they would record at Graceland. So there we go. That's what happened in this part, 1974. Now, the song that I have also has a backstory. I'm going to get this up, and you can actually see this for yourself. I actually found this is actually from the show on May 11. So the show we have just been talking about. We will go through this together, and we can, as this has actually got the backstory on this, so we can go through it. Now, Elvis appeared 4 times at the Forum Inglewood in Los Angeles in the 1970s, over 2 days, 3 years apart. The first in 70 on November 14, and the second on May 11, 1974. The 1974 shows were attended by British rock group Led Zeppelin. Only the May 11 evening show was attended by Led Zeppelin. Of the 37,000 who attended these 2 shows, the half of which made their way to the Forum for the afternoon show had no idea that within that show would be 2.5 minutes, which would set this show apart and the treat that awaited them. Both the shows were excellent, with Elvis in good voice and mood, a combination which always proved to be a winner. During the afternoon show, between Love Me Tender and Steamroller Blues, something magical and quite wonderful happened. In a moment of pure Elvis spontaneity, he started to sing Roy Hamilton's 1961 hit, You Can Have Her. The song seems to progress in stages, with the passing of each verse. Firstly, Elvis shouts the song's title. Then Elvis and pianist Glenn D. Harden start off before Ronnie Tutt joins in with the cymbals. But at the start of the next verse is full-blown drums. At the beginning of the next verse, it's the turn of the guitars, which then become more prominent next turnaround. Joining them next time are the backing vocalists, then it becomes singing for fun. By this stage, you can hear the clapping along as everyone seems to be playing and singing with a smile on their face, and it's almost just like they never wanted to end. But eventually Elvis does just that by bringing the song to a close. A studio version could never have caught this fun in quite the same way, and the audience recording seems to add to the fly-on-the-wall feel to this recording. I doubt if anyone in the crowd that afternoon had any inclination as to how special a moment they were witnessing. In a cruel twist of fate, the evening show was recorded at the mixing board, and the subsequent soundboard recording was released by Sony on the FTD label in 2007. But it seems that the same cannot be said of the afternoon show. This suspicion is strengthened further by the fact that Sony actually bought the audience recording, You Can Have Her, and included it as a bonus track on the aforementioned Live in LA album. It is, however, lucky for us that the performance was captured at all, and that in spite of it being recorded by an audience member, it is of good quality. So, guys, this performance is the one and only time that Elvis sang this, and we are lucky that it got recorded. So everybody enjoy Elvis singing You Can Have Her.
You can have her. I don't want her. She didn't love me anyway. She only wanted someone to play with. And all I wanted was love to stay. Why did I love is not in me, but confession, good for the soul. I'd rather have love that I can cling to. Oh, let's go. You can have. I don't want her. She didn't love me anyway. She only wanted someone to play with, and all I want was love to stay. You can love on water. There's only one thing that you can do, and dig a hole. Jump right in and move it down. Oh, yeah, you can have. I don't want. She didn't love me anyway. She only wanted someone to play with, and all I want was to stay. You can have. I don't want. She didn't love me anyway. She only wanted someone to play with, and all I want was to stay. I don't want. She didn't love me anyway. She only wanted someone to play with, and all I want. Yeah, you can have her. I don't want. She didn't love me anyway. She only wanted someone to play with, and all I want was to stay. And all I want was to stay.
There we go. That was the first and only time that Elvis sang that song. Oh, what a great job he did it. I wonder why he didn't include it in his set list. Certainly got the audience jumping. And thank God that someone in the crowd actually recorded that. No, the audio is not fantastic, but hey, it's better than not having it at all. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this edition of Elvis 1974. Sorry again, like I said, for the lighting this time. That will all be sorted out next week for sure. Now, you make sure you all have a great week. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. It is free. And don't forget to comment. I do read every single one of them. You all be good. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you all next week. Bye.